"Move your car!" I screamed, banging on her window as red and blue lights bounced off the oak trees that lined our narrow rural road. She didn't even flinch. Behind her shiny BMW, the ambulance sirens wailed and pulsed like a heartbeat trying to break free. But the driveway to my ranch, my land, was blocked. My son lay somewhere between life and death inside our barn. And HOA Karen, she sat there, smug as a cat who just tipped over a glass of milk, arms crossed, eyes forward, pretending she couldn't hear the desperation behind her. My boots pounded the dirt as I raced around to her window, fists balled. "That's my son in there! Move your goddamn car!" Finally, her head turned slowly like a villain in some slow-burn horror movie. Her lips purled into that same sarcastic smirk I'd seen ever since she became president of our HOA, a title she wielded like a sword, cutting into the freedoms of everyone unfortunate enough to own land within a mile of hers. "This is private property, Mr. Easton. Emergency vehicles are not allowed without a permit. Section 14B. I swear I saw red. "He's dying, you psychopath!" She raised a brow and turned her head back to the front, adjusting her sunglasses like this was a sunny Sunday drive, not a damn emergency. The paramedics jumped out of the rig, rushing forward with their stretcher, trying to squeeze through the narrow shoulder, but Karen's car left barely enough space for a bicycle. One of them, a young woman, jogged up to me. "We'll go in on foot. Just get us to the patient." "She blocked the way!" I barked. But we didn't wait. I sprinted ahead, adrenaline making me forget the throbbing in my knee from an old rodeo injury. They followed, carrying a load of gear up the sloping hill to the barn. My heart was exploding in my chest. Every step was a second I didn't have. Earlier that day, I was working in the pasture with my 14-year-old son Wyatt. The barn's roof had taken some damage in the last thunderstorm, and he'd climbed up to check on a cracked beam while I worked the fencing below. One wrong step, one rotten plank. I turned just in time to hear the crash and see his body crumpled at the bottom of the hay chute. His scream stopped before I got there. He was barely conscious, face ashen, breath ragged. I called 911 and gave them coordinates. We're out on the edge of town on the cusp of HOA jurisdiction, which shouldn't even exist this far out, but Karen had extended the imaginary reach of her tyranny with forged petitions and technicalities that somehow slid through county meetings like snakes through grass. When the paramedics reached Wyatt, they worked fast, but I could see it in their eyes. He needed transport. Fast. No way we were getting him down that narrow slope and across the pasture to the road with the gurney. We needed that rig. But Karen, damn Karen, was still blocking the only access. The younger medic radioed back to dispatch. "Blocked entry by civilian vehicle. We need police backup or air evac. Requesting immediate heli transport. Coordinates coming now." I heard it. Heli transport. It was a long shot. This was still rural Texas. Air evac wasn't always fast. But 7 minutes later, I heard the thump, thump, thump of a rotor approaching from the southwest. Karen's blockade turned into a blessing. I ran back down the slope to the road just in time to see her still sitting in her car, and I swear she was filing her nails. Filing her nails! The look on her face when that rescue chopper crested the ridge, it should have been framed and hung in a gallery. Dust whipped across her BMW, the force rattling her mirrors and shaking every leaf from the trees. The bird hovered over the barn like divine vengeance made metal. I watched her mouth open. Then, for the first time all day, she rolled down her window. "You can't land that here. This is private airspace," she yelled, actually yelling over the scream of rotors. I didn't respond. I just walked past her car, slow and deliberate, and flicked my middle finger at her window. The medevac team descended like angels of war, 4 of them in bright orange gear, equipment swinging as they jogged to the barn. I watched them vanish inside, and 5 minutes later they re-emerged, carrying Wyatt's body secured and oxygened. The pilot gave a thumbs up. The boy was alive. They rose into the sky and vanished toward the county trauma center, leaving only silence and Karen. She stepped out of her car, coughing dramatically from the dust, swatting her blouse like she was allergic to heroism. "You know you'll be hearing from the board," she sneered. I walked right up to her, chest heaving. "I'll be seeing you in court," I growled, low enough that she couldn't twist it into a threat. "And you better pray my son makes it, Karen, because I'm not just taking you to court, I'm burning your little kingdom to the ground." Her lips trembled, just a flicker. I turned and walked away. But that day lit a fire in me. Karen didn't know it yet, but her days as queen of our hellish HOA were numbered, and I wasn't going to take her down with some complaint or petition. No, I was going to take everything she cared about, from the votes she manipulated, to the bylaws she twisted, to the property she stole. If Wyatt survived, Karen would wish that helicopter had landed on her car instead. 3 days later, Wyatt opened his eyes. He was pale, weak, ribs broken, spine bruised, but alive. The doctor said the helicopter saved his life. Had we wasted 5 more minutes on foot, he would have lost too much blood. That rescue wasn't just dramatic, it was decisive. But Karen, she filed a formal complaint. Not about blocking the ambulance, not about delaying life-saving treatment. She reported me to the HOA board for aerial intrusion, excessive dust dispersal, and creating a hostile interaction with a board member. Her report was 13 pages long. She even quoted the local drone flying restrictions like she'd found buried treasure in a war chest of obscure bylaws. She cited noise ordinance violations, claimed her car's paint was damaged by rotor wind, attached photos of dust on her windshield like they were forensic evidence from a crime scene. I read every word of it while sitting beside Wyatt's hospital bed. He was still too groggy to speak much, but when I showed him the first page of Karen's complaint, he smiled and muttered through cracked lips, "Hope the chopper blew her mailbox into the creek." That's when I knew I wasn't going to stop at making her pay. I was going to end her. Karen had ruled over our little subdivision like a tyrant for 6 long years. She turned a quiet ranching community into a gated nightmare with rules so suffocating even the squirrels looked nervous. Fined old veterans for flying flags a few inches too high, shamed widows into painting their mailboxes every 6 months, took a retired firefighter to court over a shed she claimed was visually aggressive. But this, blocking an ambulance, filing complaints while a child bled out? She crossed the last line, and so I started digging. I took 2 weeks off work, called in favors from every contact I had in the county. One of my college buddies, Tanner, now worked in land records. Another, Maria, was a forensic accountant. I didn't tell them everything. I didn't need to. Just gave them the thread and watched them start pulling. Karen had always bragged about her perfect paperwork, but nobody keeps every corner clean forever, especially not someone who runs an HOA like a mafia boss. And soon, we hit gold. Turns out, Karen had quietly pushed a vote to change HOA boundaries 3 years ago. The problem? The vote was forged. The signatures? Copies. At least 7 of them were from homeowners who had moved or died before the vote took place. That gave her jurisdiction over the edge of my property, illegally. And suddenly, every citation, every fine, every letter I'd ever received from her, null and void. But I didn't stop there. Maria traced HOA funds through 3 bank accounts. Karen had rerouted over $68,000 in community funds for beautification projects, but there were no invoices, no vendors, no city permits, just transfers to a personal LLC, one she'd registered under her dog's name. No, seriously, Peaches Property Services. We weren't just looking at fraud. This was embezzlement, misuse of funds, mail fraud, property extortion. Hell, we even found she'd used HOA money to buy a new irrigation system for her private garden. The kind of garden you need when you're trying to impress state inspectors, because, oh yes, Karen was running for city council. Her campaign website was full of lies. Beloved by her neighborhood, upholder of moral values, defender of safe family communities. I called a reporter from the local paper, sent her everything: the fake vote, the bank records, the audio I'd secretly recorded at the hospital when she called the helicopter a nuisance stunt. The cherry on top? I got drone footage of her house, dozens of HOA violations in plain sight. Unapproved fencing, backyard structures, 2 unauthorized satellite dishes, a hideous flamingo statue with a cowboy hat. Oh, Karen, you gave me the rule book. I just learned to read it better than you. I dropped the whole packet on the desk of the county attorney, and then I called an emergency HOA meeting. She tried to cancel it, of course, claimed protocol wasn't followed, screamed about deep fakes and anti-woman conspiracies. But when 30 neighbors showed up, all holding printed photos of Wyatt's rescue and Karen's parked car, she couldn't spin it. The votes came down. Karen was removed as HOA president, effective immediately. Then came the lawsuits. Civil court, criminal charges, a restraining order filed by Wyatt's mother. And the cherry on top? The city revoked her candidacy, pending active criminal investigations. She tried to sue me for defamation. She lost. Tried to move back into her house. The bank foreclosed it 2 months later. I bought it at auction. You better believe I did. I didn't even want it. I bulldozed it. Left the land empty except for one sign facing the street. No trespassing, ambulances always welcome. As for Wyatt, he's walking again. Every step still hurts, but he says the pain reminds him that he made it. He wants to be a flight medic when he grows up. Says the helicopter crew changed his life. And me? I got elected HOA president. Unopposed. My first act? I dissolved the HOA. Every last rule. We burned the handbook at a neighborhood barbecue, right there where Karen's roses used to grow. Turns out freedom smells a lot like mesquite and ribs. And when the choppers fly overhead now, they don't bring complaints. They bring smiles. Because folks here remember what happened the day Karen blocked an ambulance, and I answered with the sky.